here in Indy. So as we do, I'll let Coach get started with an opening statement per NCAA, and then we'll get going with questions.
Certainly excited to be here. We had our first practice here in Indy yesterday, and I thought it was a great one. Good energy, excitement, good execution. And I thought the guys had some fun with it, so that's always good to see. So, yeah, ready to go.
Steven?
Hey, Cuonzo, Steve Warner from the AP here. I got a wacky question for you. Everybody knows the One Shining Moment song. I'm curious, have you used it at all as kind of a motivation or inspiration for your players at all?
We've used it before, of course, but not every word of the song. But it said, "Well, the ball is tipped, and there you are." Now I'll give you the rest of it later. So, yeah, they've heard that. We've showed them different versions of the NCAA tournaments. Yes, so they've seen it before.
Thank you.
Cuonzo, this is obviously not a normal situation you guys are in with the way the tournament's being played this year. You mentioned practice yesterday was fun. Kind of what's the overall tone and feel as y'all navigate your way through this not so normal situation?
Well, the thing for our guys, I think it's normal because it's our first time, so to speak. A lot of guys' first time. So it's not as if 3 or 4 years a guy's been in a program was 3 straight years, and all of a sudden, man, this is different. The difference is just the bubble, so to speak, not being able to go to and from outside of the hotel where everybody's just, everything you do is just monitored, and somebody have to show you around. If you want to go to the next place, you have to be able to, somebody open the doors to let you in. So basically everything is within the hotel, and it's not bad at all. I mean, for us, I think you have a lot of time to get stuff done because you don't have all the other stuff that go with it. I mean, it's just you're in your room. We were quarantined for about a day and a half, so everything is in your room until you pass the 2 tests. So, but it hadn't been bad for us. I don't think so. Now you have to ask the players. It'd be something different, possibly.
Dave Madden?
Cuonzo, obviously you want to win every game you play, but just getting a win in the NCAA tournament, one thing this program hasn't done in a long time. But what would it mean as just a sign of progress for Mizzou?
Oh, certainly. It would mean just that, one, you beat an opponent, because that's what you play the game for, to win the game, first and foremost. Then for our program, the next step is to win the NCAA tournament game. Then you do the next things. And there's always, people talk about process, and I do believe there's a process to everything you do. And sometimes you can get lucky and skip some steps, and you might pay for them down the road. But I think there's a process, there's steps to it. Our guys understand that. They're hungry to get on the floor. Sometimes you wish you can play the game tomorrow, but this time off is good for our guys, just to be around each other again and have a peace of mind, because, the pressures overseas and the anxiety and all this stuff that goes with it, sometimes just to relax, have a peace of mind and get back on the floor and go with some of the things that you do, day-to-day stuff. So I think it'll be big for us.
Mitchell, 40.
Hey, Cuonzo, I know Jeremiah is always a key to what you all do, but can he be maybe a little bit more important to get going in this game just because of Oklahoma's personnel and the fact that to defend him, they might have to go away from what they like to do, which is putting 5 guys on the floor who can spread it out?
We hope so, and that's the plan. But that's been a plan for us all season, even when teams have traditional bigs. But in this case, yes, because it'll come down to which team can impose their style, so to speak. We want to be able to get the ball inside to him when he's aggressive. But even when he's posting strong, if he doesn't receive the ball via pass, it opens up driving lanes because people identify him on the floor. So now you have to be an aggressive driver, or it opens up opportunities to get offensive rebounds when 1 or 2 guys hover around him to try to keep him off the glass. But now on the flip side, that means he has to be able to guard a guy that can pick and pop and shoot. He gets it off quick. Manny gets his shot off quickly. So it's not as if he can catch the ball in the rhythm. When you look at Vanover, here's a guy, you get a chance to recover the Vanover, even though he can shoot the ball. Well, this guy, he gets it off as quick as any guard. So now you got to be ready on the catch. So that's what it puts you in compromising situation with a guy like him.
Blair Kirkhoff.
Cuonzo, on a lot of these calls, you've referred to Gene Cady, and I'm just wondering, what were the most important ways he influenced you and your, and was he one of the reasons you got into coaching in the first place?
He's definitely one of the reasons, because he made the call, because I didn't have a desire, really. That wasn't my goal. Like my teammate, Matt Payne, that was all you knew from day one. That's what he wanted to do. He was always talking about it, doing it, whatever. But that wasn't a goal for me. And it was just, Coach said, I think there's something you could be good at. So here's some of the steps. And then when he called me, I was about 2 weeks when I was about to go back to play professional ball in Italy. The coach said, I have an opportunity for you. But I had to go back and finish up school that calendar year. And then he had an opportunity for me. So that's how it really came about. But it really wasn't a goal of mine growing up, no. But outside of, the coaching the sport, just, he was just a man of character. He always talked about doing the right things. He always talked about going to class all the time, and then you think about that 4 years of going to class every day. And let's just say I tried to do that, but and he talked about those things, just being on, one of the things he always talked about, and I still take this to heart, being 10 or 15 minutes there on time, those sorts of things, because it means a lot. And I think one of the biggest forms of respect is accountability, when somebody can really rely on you to do the right things. And I'd like to think Coach was able to trust me as a basketball player. I couldn't make every shot. I struggled, and what I struggled with, I like to think he could count on me as a guy he knew he would bring his hard hat every day.
Eric Wong.
Cuonzo, you've talked a lot about Drew Smith this year, and I'm curious, at this time of the year, what qualities about his leadership style helps you in a bubble?
Just his calmness, just in a professional approach. It's just basketball. It's not a guy like, again, you have some situations where you have young men, not saying this is a bad thing, where they hang their hat on, I got to make it. I got to make this shot. I got to make it to be able to be a pro. I got to make it to provide for my family. All those things and those pressures can put a lot of weight on a young man. I think he plays the game like it's supposed to be played. Open shot, shoot it, shot fake, drive it, pass to the open guy, read the defense. It's basketball. And I think when you're able to play basketball freely, you have a chance to be very successful. I think that's how he plays. And I think his teammates respect him from the standpoint, he's a good person. He brings his heart out. He approaches it like a business, and you can always respect that in a guy.
Go to Jack Sobel.
Hey, Cuonzo, what have you seen from Austin Reeves on tape, and how do you think Drew matches up with him defensively?
Austin Reeves is as good a guard in the SEC. He's a talented guy, can score the ball. The fortunate thing for us playing in the SEC, you've seen guys that can score the ball. The unfortunate thing, we're up against one of those guys again. He can score. He comes down the floor. He's at 6'5". He has good weight on his body. He can get to the rim. He's one of the best in the country at getting fouled. He knows how to get fouled. He knows how to get in the lane, use his size. When you have smaller guys on him, he knows how to probe the defense, walk you down, where he received the dub when he finds the open guys. So it's just constant pressure. You got to keep him uncomfortable. You can't allow him to get in a rhythm where he's dribbling the ball in his right hand and making plays. It could be a long night for you. And he does a great job of creating that switch or probing that other big guy so Manic can get open threes. I just think you got to make him play on both sides of the ball. You can't allow him to go into the half with 0 fouls, and we hadn't put pressure on him some way, shape, or form.
Greg.
Coach, I'm curious if you'd ever been to Indiana Motor Speedway before the weekend, and if the process that you're going through now is different as far as bubble compared to the protocols you went through the SEC.
As far as being at the Motor Speedway, I was around the Motor Speedway when I was in college. I was around it. I never went inside, so meaning the festivities. But as far as the procedures here with COVID nowadays, I think it's great, really. Outside of my family, meeting my wife, my daughter, because my son is actually here because he plays for Purdue, so I see him. So outside of my wife and daughter not being here, I think it's fine, because what you do, more than anything, you get a peace of mind. It's just you and your team. You have a lot of time to prepare for games. You got a lot of time to get rest and whatever. From a student standpoint, you have a lot of time to get studies done. So I think that part is great. And it's really a business trip. And you don't have all the festivities surrounding it. Sometimes you can lose focus on those things, especially if you can't embrace that properly and receive that how you need to receive it.
Vahe. You're on mute, Vahe.
There we go. Sorry, guys. Hey, Cuonzo, you've talked a lot about, sort of peace of mind, and you're mentioning, Drew, one of Drew's attributes is calmness. Can you just describe finding that happy place where you've got the right excitement, but you've also got sort of poise and calm going into this to try to achieve what you want to do?
I think the game really it should be and I didn't learn it, to maybe my junior year of college. It's a game. There's no pressure in the game. Is basketball. And I always say when guys play with a level of fear, whatever that means, whether you're afraid of competition, you want to be successful, it's not as if the opponent has a weapon on the court. So it's just basketball. You miss a shot, you miss a shot. If you practice and you prepare at a high level, then you don't worry about just a miss, but the next one I'll be ready for. And what I always say to our guys, consume yourself with defending, rebounding, playing as hard as you can play. When you do those things, the offensive flow, because you are who you are offensively. What for us is not getting out of character offensively. Playing to your strength. Don't allow the excitement of a crowd or one made shot or made basket cause you to do something that's out of character on the next possession. So we have mature enough guys that understand how we score, how we be successful, who needs to get the ball. We understand that part. It's just a matter of sticking to the script from start to finish.
Adam from the Columbus Dispatch. You're also on mute.
Sorry, I thought I hit the button. It didn't work. Coach, I'm just wondering, you opened your season against Oral Roberts, and that's who Ohio State has in the first round. And I know you're focused on what you have right in front of you, but I wondered if there's anything you could share about preparing for them and what the challenge was of guarding a guy like Max.
Am I preparing? Are you writing for Ohio State or Oral Roberts?
I cover Ohio State.
Well, I don't want to give you a lot. I mean, Oral Roberts is a good team. I respect them. I don't want to give you a lot. Ohio State have a great staff. They can figure that part out. But Oral Roberts is a tough team.
Dave Matter.
Cuonzo, back to Drew, his floor game. You said before it was pretty advanced before he got to you, just how he kind of plays under the rim and does so many fundamental things with jump stop, shot fake, pivot. I think before someone was compared him to Geist a little bit, how he had those things kind of innate. I don't know if it's an Indiana thing, but just how unique is that part of his game, kind of old school approach?
I think it's impressive, but I think I've said it before. The state of Indiana, pound for pound, is as good as any that I've been around as far as teaching the game of basketball, and I think it's a byproduct of Gene Katie and Bobby Knight. Those guys did it for so long, so now all those disciples over the years, they seem the two of the best that ever do it. Talking about now you're talking 30, 40 years of basketball. So you can't, whether you play for those guys or not. So that means you're talking about Butler, Bradley, Ball State, all those schools. Some way, shape, or form, those two guys impacted those programs because their styles. And here we are. And I think that's why that state is as good as it is, because those coaches, they kind of teach it. They teach some form of motion offense, cutting, passing, jump stops, and all this. So when those guys transition to college, they understand how to play basketball. And that's a state where if you're looking for a basketball player, it's great. It's not always getting consumed who's the highest jumper, who's the fastest guy. You want a good basketball player. That's how you win games. And that's a great state to recruit in.
We'll go back to Mitchell 40.
Cuonzo, I actually had a question about Drew as well. You've talked about just kind of his smarts and his basketball IQ. I'm curious, is that something that comes from his preparation, or is that just kind of something that's almost innate in him?
I think that's innate in upbringing. Then it's it's a combination of what you've been taught from grassroots. Somebody has to tap into you to put the right things in you. And I think when you're able to have that ability of people around you to coach you, but you also have to be able to receive it. And that's part nowadays more than ever is the receiving of the information. And not many can embrace that. Most young guys, they haven't kind of figured it out, and they have to struggle before they understand, though I'm not your parent or your guardian, I can still give you information and insight. And it don't always have to be comfortable information. Oftentimes the best, they get accustomed to that uncomfortable coaching, and that's how they grow. But if all you want to hear is all good things about you have a long way to go in life, not just in the sport, but in life.
Todd?
Coach, you talked about, wanting to win the game, obviously, because you've made the tournament. And this team hasn't had the shortcuts that you kind of mentioned before. You got a lot of seniors and juniors on this team. How much would it just mean for those guys personally? I know you want to win, but they've really been through it these last few years trying to get to this point. How big would it be for those guys who have really kind of gone through the wars with you?
I'll be great for them, man, because they're a part of it. Those guys chose to come here during some down times, and you don't take those things for granted because they don't owe it to you. They stayed the course. And the bumps in the road, they were committed to it. So that part is great, man. But you also want to see them guys have success because you know what goes on behind the scenes and the amount of work that is put in. Not to say other teams that don't do that, but I know what they put into it.
Colin?
Cuonzo, I know you mentioned Brady Manick and just being ready for him. When you played in Kansas City last year, was it just the sort of thing where you had to see it live to be ready to defend how quickly he shoots, or what was it about the way that he plays caught you guys maybe off guard last year?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say caught off guard. You know, he can shoot the ball. They space you out. They do a great job with that. But when he shoots the ball, he gets it off so quick. And now, as a traditional big, the closeout has to be sound. You know, you got to contest the shot and close. And I think in that case, it was such a quick turnaround. So it's not as if you had days to prepare to really know. The turnaround was so quick, and it's just a matter of which team can impose their will best. And I thought Jeremiah in the second half of that game a year ago played better, but it was a little too late.
Mason?
Hey, Coach. Oklahoma is a team that plays well-disciplined ball in the sense that they don't turn the ball over a ton and they don't foul a lot as well. What are some of the difficulties that sort of come for planning for a team like this, especially in the context of a March Madness game?
Well, it's a new season. You have, the biggest thing I think when you're talking NCAA tournament games and when people are talking about games, of course, you got to be good enough. And then the other part is whatever matchup that is. And I think the part that is not often talked about is the officiating. Who's officiating the game? What conference is officiating the game? Because you look at some leagues, they allow you to play a physical brand. Other leagues, they call the smallest of fouls. So it just depends on who's officiating the game and how the game will be officiated. You can kind of go from there. So it's important that your players make the necessary adjustments on how the game's officiated.
Blair?
So Cuonzo, just wondering how Chase ended up in Purdue and not Mizzou.
You know, man, I just really wanted him to spread his wings and fly, and it's something he wanted to do. My wife and I, just like my first son, the same thing with him. You take, you pick your choices, and I think he really wanted to play basketball, but also he's an engineering student. It was his decision. Our job as parents to narrow it down for you, and then you make the decision. And he made a decision based on what's best for him, and he wanted to spread his wings and fly.
Adam, do you have another one? All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Sure.